Vicki Iskandar. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm super excited to talk to you. I mean, I've learned so much from you, from your beautiful videos on TikTok and Instagram, and I feel like I've learned. I mean, I'm getting so much from everything that you're posting and sharing there. It's really a great resource, and I'm just so happy to introduce you. Vicky is the author of the Chinese Five Elements Oracle. It's a 60 card deck on Chinese astrology published by Hay House. And she's an expert in the field of Chinese metaphysics and teaches the ancient arts of Feng Shui, BaZi, and Qi Men Dun Jia to help her clients thrive and stand out from their peers. I'm sorry about the language. I think it's hard to get it correct, but welcome. I'm so excited. Maybe you can share more what you do and how you got into this.
Yeah, so I have been studying astrology since 2000, and actually I started with Western astrology, and 2000 was the year of the dragon. Um, and it just everything in my life just happened organically. I grew up in a mix of Chinese and Indonesian cultures, which were very rich in spiritual tradition. So at home, my family observed Taoist customs, ancestral rituals, and Buddhist ceremonies, while at school, we celebrated Catholic and Muslim holidays. And I left Jakarta and moved to Los Angeles when I was 14 to attend high school, and then it became college, and then I did grad school in New York City. And growing up, I've always had an affinity with the metaphysics world, especially astrology. But it wasn't until I actually got my MBA degree that I started diving deeper into metaphysics. And and as I mentioned before, started with Western astrology, and that happened when it started when I was browsing at a local bookstore after coming back home to LA from my MBA program, and turned out that there was a professional astrologer at the bookstore who asked me what I was looking for, and I'm like, well, I don't know, I just need guidance. Um, and so we actually talked for more than an hour, and I left with a few astrology books that she used for reference in her practice, and these were serious books. So my Gemini mind really just soaked up the lessons. And for the next 12 years, I was really deep in that Western astrology, but it took me until the next year of the dragon in 2012 that I decided to go deeper into my lineage, my ancestral wisdom with the Chinese metaphysics, starting with BaZi, or some people call it BaZi, and that's the most
Mm.
form of Chinese astrology in Asia, and followed by Feng Shui, so and the I Ching, and then the ancient art of war called Qi Men Dun Jia, which is very
Mm.
powerful, and that is something that actually I'm still trying to present in a way that's simple to people, but it's such a it's so complex that it's uh, but it will but I think it will be more I will be more I mean I will talk more about it in the near future. So
Mm.
and my oracle deck was published, last almost a year ago. It's we're approaching 1 year anniversary. It's been getting wonderful reviews on Amazon, so that makes me just so happy to hear how the cards are connecting readers to the five elements, because I think the five elements are just very relatable, and it's around us. It's nature.
It is. It's so, it is easy to imagine it, and because we are surrounded by it, like you say, you can relate to it because if you say the fire element, you can imagine how that would affect, and it's affecting both nature, our body, which is also nature, the whole universe. It's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your background and everything that you do. I'm really excited to hear more about everything that you are creating. And I did find you through the Chinese 5 elements. And one thing that I love are actually the images of the cards, the colors of them, and maybe we can get into that. I've had podcasts before where we talk about the elements, but I think it was a very long time ago. So for the listeners, what are the Chinese 5 elements? Where does where does it come from even?
So the 5 elements are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, and that's in the order of the production cycle. But before we get into talking about the 5 elements, let's talk about the origin, which is the Tao. So the Tao itself is the original source of all matter in the Chinese cosmology, and it's actually very simple because the Chinese character for the Tao literally translates as the way or the road. So when someone said this is the Tao, it's this is the way, and it's the void that has existed forever, eternally. It's the emptiness and the origin of everything. So the Tao, which is the void, gives rise to yin and yang, which is represented by the Tai Chi symbol. And yin and yang are always in motion, and they're always merging with each other, transforming each other. And the yin and yang interaction results in the creation of the 5 elements. And some people, like a lot of Chinese metaphysics practitioners, see it as the Big Bang, as the start of the world. And these 5 elements are not static, they're constantly interacting with each other. So in cycles of production, where one element produces another, and then the cycles of weakening, where the element that produces, the element that one produces, if you turn it around, is actually, the other element weakens the other. And there's also the destruction element. But usually I like to focus on the production cycle because that's the easiest to remember, and that also gives you a more understanding of how the elements work. So the first element, which is wood, that's the element of spring. So wood is always considered the first element because it's the element of spring, and that's associated with new beginnings, growth, color green, and the planet Jupiter. Wood has this upward energy that promotes growth and a higher vision, and it's also related to the emotion anger as well as compassion. So wood produces fire, which is the element of summer, and that's associated with the sun. It's light, it's the heart, the color red, and the planet Mars. So fire energy radiates outward like sunlight, and it's the element of joy. And joy is that key to higher vibration. So fire element is it's the most young of the element. And when we love what we do, we're activating the fire within us. And fire produces earth, which is the element that helps us transition from one season to another. And earth is not really associated with any season, but because it's the in-between element, and it's associated with the center and the planet Saturn. And earth energy is downward, grounding, and centering. And it's the element of peace. So when we feel at peace, we're activating the earth element within us. And earth produces metal, which is the element of fall, and that's associated with Venus. To me, metal is the most misunderstood element, and it's also kind of the element that's most out of balance in our modern society because it is the element of spirit. It's meant to be hard to understand unless you go deep into yourself, and it's also the element of self-reflection, which connects us to the spirit within, and it's the element of grief. And metal, like a sword, it helps us let go what no longer serves. And metal produces water, which is the element that rules winter, the most yin time of the year. And that's water is darkness, the color black, and the planet Mercury. So it's the most yin of the elements. And its energy is receptive because water fills every hollow. And it helps us, water element helps us access the wisdom within. But an imbalance of water can bring a lot of fear. And water also helps us go within so we can rest and rejuvenate and ready for spring, which is wood. So that's the cycle. And everything in life is a manifestation of these elements, of one or more of these elements, and whether it's the time of year, a mood, a taste, a thing, an emotion, or an action. Um, they the elements, like, with the cycles, they continuously strengthen and weaken each other, and also each of the element also holds a check and balance relationship over another. So yeah, so our body and our emotions respond to changes in the elements, which is the environment, and we thrive when nature itself is in harmony, and we follow the flow of nature.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so, it was very good to explain it like that. And also the source, as you said, what comes before everything and how the elements go. It's so apparent. I mean, we live in different climates, of course. Here in the Nordics, we have a lot of especially the water element, I would say, most of the year. But we're in a very fire element state now, which gives that balance. And then I feel like since we have different constitutions, we also, like, our own body's elements are doing their thing. It really can be a medicine to know. Like, for example, I always lived around the water element, like physical water as well. But then I felt like wood would be my medicine, really, like also the physical, like the trees and the forest. And it's been a true medicine for me to live close to that. And then now the water element wants me back a little bit again. And that goes, I feel like it goes in cycles, and how we balance ourselves. And I think what's beautiful also with these beautiful, like in Chinese medicine as well, how the elements relate to our emotions, and why certain seasons can make us feel also an emotion stronger. And now in the, like, northern hemisphere, with the fire element, the heart is like opening up. We can feel that joy, and that's something that you also speak about a lot and work
Yeah,
with.
yeah, and in winter, when days are just too cold and dark, we can't get enough sunlight, especially where you are. That
Mm.
that's an excess of water element and lack of fire, which, yeah, affects the heart. So a lot of people get that seasonal affective disorder around that time of year. That's nature at work.
Yeah, definitely. It's important when you know the elements, and how you can work with your food with that, and how you can work, or if you can get, like, balance it out in some way. It's so important. So I'm really, like, excited to talk more about the elements, and how I mean, for me, your oracle cards took my understanding of the five elements to a next level, which I find, like, I'm really curious on how to work with that on a daily basis. So in Chinese, can you talk about now how this relates to the astrology, the Chinese astrology as well?
Yeah, so the oracle cards work as an oracle system, but
Mm.
then since the elements themselves, since the pillars themselves, they capture the elements of the day, basically, of a particular cycle of time. You can use it as a guidance for the day. So let's say today is actually, today is the woodpick day. And
Mm.
you know in the in the guidebook, I basically, I suggest doing the daily reading, which you can, you can either pick a card and see what comes up for you, or, or you can study the elements of the day, which is what I offer in my daily readings on social media, on Instagram. And so today is the wood pick. So let's say, you just want to take a look, like, at, you just want to get the feel of the energy and the frequency of the wood pick. And this is actually, I love this card because it's
I
just
love
so,
the colors. Yeah, the colors also. And it says moving up the vortex.
yeah,
Mm.
this is about being, raising your frequency. Uh,
Oh,
the
yeah.
wood pick, yin wood. So wood pick has yin wood in the heavenly frequency. Traditionally, it's called heavenly stem, but I
Mm.
like to call it the heavenly frequency because it's basically the guidance from heaven. Is yin wood represents the guidance from heaven of the day. So yin wood is very dreamy. It's very creative. It's the archetype of the artist. So
Mm.
so today is just, there's a really high creative energy today, that if you're an artist or a writer, it's something that you probably can take advantage of, or probably want to take advantage of. And the pick is yin water. So water produces wood, wood produces, yeah,
Mhm.
water produces wood. So water produces wood. And so the in the well, if the wood pick is written in Chinese, it's actually going to be the wood character over the pick. So how we see it is basically the pick as a water sign keeps replenishing the wood.
Mhm.
So this is a very so this is a pillar that just keeps replenishing. So the elements keep replenishing themselves, and you can say it strengthens the wood quality of the pillar, which
Mhm.
basically also heightens our imagination even further. And wood, of course, produces fire, so that raises our frequency, and that's why this is about moving up the vortex,
Mm.
because it's by going into your creative, by going into the creative within, you're doing what you love, and you're naturally, instinctively raising your frequency.
That's
And we
beautiful.
also have,
Yeah. I love that it's so this is why I'm saying it's such a incredible insight to work with your cards that you can work. I think that everyone knows like the when the Chinese New Year starts, we enter, now we're in the dragon year again. So it's every 12th year we change and then we also change if it's the element as well, which for me it's like it's not something that I've learned yet. Actually, I'm really curious about that as well. And then we have the daily energetics and other clusters as well. Like how is that whole system built up? We have the year,
mhm.
and that is associated with an animal and an element, right? And
Yes, so
something,
that's right.
yeah.
So that's the pillar. So each pillar is a combination of the element and the animal sign.
Mm.
And the pillars, the elements go in, there's an order to the elements, which is that productive cycles, and it starts from wood, the young manifestation of wood. So it starts from young wood, and then we go to the yin side, yin wood. So this year is a young wood dragon, and next year will be a yin wood snake. And then the animals themselves also have an order. So if you just kind of lay it out, from young wood, um, and then just keep going, because the cycle just keeps going, and then the animal sign also keeps going, then you get the 60 pillars. And that's
Mm.
how parts are numbered from number 1, which is the wood rat, and that is young wood. And the rat is considered the first of the animal signs. and it just keeps going. And each month, I mean, there's also, so it's a cycle of 60 because there are 60 pillars, and it's a yearly cycle, it's a monthly cycle and a daily cycle, and there's also the hourly cycle. So if you have if you know your natal chart, that's the 60 pillars for, of the year, the month, the day, and the hour frozen in time. And yeah, so you can actually you can really get a lot of insights from that natal chart.
Yeah, and you do readings for natal charts. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
I
really
do.
exciting. It does make a change when it does have a beautiful when you start relating your chart, even with Western astrology, when you understand how you relate to what's going on, it's like a constant microcosmos with the macrocosmos, like doing this beautiful dance. And but I'm really curious also, this, now that I brought up this year's energy, it feels very strong in a way. Like, how would you describe this dragon year and the element, and what is important for us as a collective?
Yes, so it is a very strong energy because the wood in the dragon is young wood. So that's, that's the first of the 10 heavenly frequencies, and young wood itself represents strength and just a lot of power. And even in the card, for the wood dragon, it says you have the strength. So it's about strength. And
Beautiful.
really interesting is when I was doing this, I wasn't, I was really deep into the elements, and that was my reference. The elements were my guides. But then, yeah, I found out this year that this is, in the tarot card, it's also the year of the strength card. So so it's a lot of synchronicity there.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, so the wood dragon year, and the dragon itself is so dragon is a young earth sign. So when you have the young elements and the young animal sign, young is hard, right? Young is a little more stubborn and hard and more rigid, especially the young wood, because it's a tree, and compared to the yin counterpart. So yin is the more flexible, more circular, more chaotic, whereas yang wants to be linear, but it's, as you know, life is not linear. So young wood, yeah, it usually it can create divisiveness, and we're seeing that in the world with politics, and just, I think, just about everything. People get divisive on a lot of issues, and that's the nature of young wood as a rigid, like, imagine a tree, and that can break when it's basically, the energy is not so bending. So when it's too hard, it can break. And the dragon as a young earth sign is it's very powerful. Like, the dragon is, we call the dragon the guardian to the gate of heaven, but it's also a young earth sign. So it's the only mythical sign. It's the only mythical animals of the 12 signs. So there's a lot of spirituality in the dragon, but it's, at the same time, it's also very earthy, because earth is what grounds us, and it's what helps us manifest. So this is a year where we can really start something and have it grow in the next cycle, basically in the next 10 years, because that's the cycle of the pillar of each one of the elements. So, and this year also is also the start of a highly anticipated new period in Chinese metaphysics, which is a period of joy, and it's a period of light, and 20-year cycle. We call it period 9, or the age of 9. And we've been transitioning into
wow.
that 2020. And but then this is the year that's considered the official.
Vicky, this is so crazy. Yesterday, I was contemplating how much 9 has come up. And since I'm born on the 9th, I was calculating some numerology, and 9 was coming, 999. And I commented on this yesterday. And it feels also like 9 in numerology is also like the last time before it starts over. So it's really funny that you mentioned it, because I also calculated my own age now, and it turns out to 9. And it's so interesting that you bring this up. You see the synchronicities, how amazing it is from different traditions, even if you don't know. But what is that whole, is that the other system that you're working with the metaphysics, or how does that relate to the 5 elements? And is it connected to the heart, as in Chinese medicine, like the heart, small intestine, that whole meridian? Yeah.
Well, the 9 is related to the stars, the Feng Shui stars, and that's actually also related. So each of these it's the flying star system, and each of these stars also has a trigram, except for 5, which is a number, which is number at the center of the Bagua, and the Bagua is the 8 trigram chart, and the 9 is related to the fire trigram, which is about the heart and the light within. And if you see, I didn't have a printout of the fire trigram, but it's solid line at the top, and a broken line in the middle, and the solid line at the bottom. So there is basically, the broken line is in the center. And that broken line in the center represents the middle sister, because the broken line is a yin line, and it translates in the modern world into middle-aged women. So this is the rise of, I call it the rise of divine feminine, because you don't have to be middle-aged. You can be older, you can be younger, but you just have to tune in to the heart to thrive in the next 20 years. And it's a 20-year cycle, so it is a long time. And in the next 20 years, we can expect to see more and more women taking leadership and bringing inspiration to the world. And this is after 20 years of period 8, which is associated with the little brother, and that youthful masculine energy. And we saw that the past 20 years, with the internet, with the tech world being, with the bros, right? And yeah, the tide is changing. So, I mean, even in the past 20 years for us, for the women, we saw a lot of, the boss lady trend. So, people were trying to be more masculine, basically energetically. So now the shift is basically going more toward the heart-based occupations and energy work, basically. So, and it's also fire element is fire radiates, right? And it also lifts our frequency. So it represents virtual world too, like the virtual realm, and then it represents jumping between realms. So in the next 20 years, it'll be easier to jump in and out of different realms as the fire trigram opens up other realms, and that includes, and we're already going there with AI and the metaverse, and also spiritual and energetic realms, because we can really tap our consciousness into the higher realms. And so I think the challenge would be to ground yourself, as you jump between realms. I mean, we're already in different realms. Like, I'm talking to you over my computer, but you are there, you're real. So that's already the digital realm. But I think in the next 20 years there will be even more. Who knows? Maybe I'll be talking to you in hologram in 10 years, right?
I love that. And what a balance between, so I'm thinking a lot about that we are working with the wood element and the dragon this year, which I think if one would say the emotion of anger and frustration, which can drive a lot as well, but maybe, and then we have that whole joy and fire element, which the wood feeds into
Yes.
as well. It's like very interesting how that works, because also in Chinese medicine, it's like it's not bad to have any emotion. It's if it's too much of something, it can,
Yeah, it's the
you know,
balance. Yeah.
yeah, you need to have the balance of all elements. And I'm thinking about how to, if we have this excessive, so if the year is in this wood dominance, and then if we have an imbalance, let's say in the wood meridians, the wood organs, how would that correlate then? Does it help it, does it become the medicine year, or does it agitate, or how have you seen when you work with that?
Well, well, I think one way that, well, wood is related to anger, right? But then, I mean, but, well, one way that you can feel that the wood, within you is not in balance is when you feel a lot of anger that you can't really control.
Mm,
So it's about that. It's that extreme of emotion.
mm,
And because on the other side of wood is compassion and
mm,
also creativity. So to me, when you realize that, oh, there's so much anger, and how do you channel it? So you want to channel it into creativity, or you want to channel that frustration, let's say, into writing, because writing is also very wood element activity.
mm,
And that's how you deal with the anger, or work, or let it be your inspiration, basically.
mm,
And when that happens, you're also stoking the fire within, because wood produces fire. So you're actually, when you're channeling that creative within, whatever inspires you, it becomes well, stoke the fire within, so that becomes a source of light for you.
mm.
So, and to me, that's how you can really work with the period 9 energy, is to really just go into yourself and see what stokes your fire. Because if
Mm.
there's no passion, then yes, I think period 9 will be challenging to people, because it's a cycle of joy. Well, it's a period of light and joy, but it's not because it's easier to find light and joy. It's because it's actually harder to find light and joy, and it's our challenge. It's our challenge to actually be in the light and stay in the light during the next 20 years. And one way to stay in the light is to keep stoking the fire within. And
Yeah.
that's how you can use wood element to do that. So you can use your anger, or you can use your compassion, that's something from the wood part, or do some wood element activities to stoke that fire. And fire element is the element that raises your frequency, is the element of joy. So it's just really important to to really use that wood element to stoke the fire within.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And where can people find you and your oracle cards?
Yes, so I am on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and also X, or what used to be Twitter. And
Yeah.
my handle is at 5 Elements Oracle. It's number 5 Elements Oracle. I'm also, my website is just my name, VickiIskandar.com, and you can actually calculate your chart on my site. So if you
Mm,
go, I have not linked it yet, but it's somewhere in there, somewhere kind of buried in there. If it's in my Oracle page. So if you go to the Oracle page, there's a link to that. And or you can just type vickyiskandar.com/chart. It will take you.
I will definitely link to that. And I think that's amazing. Get your birth chart there. I love that. And I love that also. One last thing, like you said, your cards are not only to work with the daily frequencies that you also share so beautifully. I would really recommend everyone to follow Vicky if you want your daily update, because for me, I'm learning so much from it myself, even though I studied the elements for so many years. I love just learning more since I haven't gotten into the astrology as much. But I would love to, if you have the cards, to maybe draw a card for us today. What is important for us and the listeners to hear right now, if you can?
Yeah. Let me just shuffle the cards.
Mm.
And yes, this is for guidance for the day. Oops, some card wants to come out already. Well, this is the Earth Rabbit. So it's actually about harmony with the season, so that's how you harmonize yourself with the elements, is to be in harmony, to live, according to the season. So in the summer right now, it's, we're summer in Northern Hemisphere, and especially where light is scarce in other in other time of the year, it's just to really soak in the light and just soak in the sunshine, when you can, and also just to be in season. That's to eat, to eat whatever the precious produce, and just to bring in the elements with you.
Yeah, definitely be with the elements. I think that's something that we can all think about with the wood element, is also be the green colors of nature is so important for that. And I think that that also opens the heart, right? The heart chakra.
Mhm.
So it's so beautiful. I want to thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and work with us today. I feel like there would be more conversations. I'm curious about more things that you're doing, and I will put all the links in the show notes. And yeah, thank you so much, Vicky.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.